Hey everybody, Real News Politics here. I am Jay, and we post new videos every Wednesday, so make sure to come back next Wednesday for even more political content. Every week we make one long, unedited, uncensored clip of whatever I need to talk about in politics. Uncensored meaning if you're a liberal, you're gonna get offended. So let's get right into the news. Today we'll be talking about paid protesters and George Soros. As I'm sure you've probably seen during the Senate vote to confirm Brett Kavanaugh as a judge, there were hundreds of protesters out front. Now, is that expected? Maybe, but what we don't know, or at least what a lot of people didn't know, is that they were paid. This has been confirmed by multiple news outlets, and this is definitely not the first time that this has happened. This goes all the way back to right before Trump was elected, and definitely right after. And the problem with this is that it gives an illusion that there's more of a public outcry for this issue than there actually is. Perhaps a lot of people feel that Kavanaugh shouldn't have been judged, but they didn't have the effort to actually go over there and become a protester. Not that I'm saying that there weren't any real protesters. I think there were some. But of the few that even were there, most of them were paid. Estimates go about 600 people were there in the crowd. The news wants you to think that there were thousands upon thousands, and they come from all sides of the United States and represent America as a whole. But that's completely false. There was not even 1,000. It was about 600. And as Trump so amazingly put it out on his Twitter, that number does not even come close to his rallies. Just thought he'd mention that. But the bigger problem here is who they're even paid by. If you trace it all the way back, there are many links that the initial cash fund, if you trace it all the way back, is coming from wealthy tycoon George Soros. Now, this is your Al Capone, if you will, of the 21st century. I mean, behind every weird libtard is Hillary, but behind her is George. Someone has to fund all her little schemes, and that is George. Some people just think like he's like Satan, because if you watch some of his interviews, in fact, you can look it up to fact check me. George Soros interview that he doesn't want you to see, so look that up. And in the interview, they talk about his childhood and how that scarred him for life. He was a Jew. He was a Jew, and during the Holocaust, and he escaped thanks to this guy that pretended to be his father. Then, not too much later, he went back to help some people raid Jewish people's homes and take their furniture when he was only about 13 or 14 years old. Now, when they interviewed him about this, he had no guilt whatsoever. He literally said, "I have no guilt." He said that if he didn't do it, someone else would, so he's just basically fulfilling something that needs to be done. But that's a lame excuse. He didn't have to do it. I mean, that has to change somebody to go and help the opposite team against your own people. I mean, why would he do that? I have no idea. So I can imagine how that would scar him, because ever since then, he quests all the time for more power. He longs to be in control, for the control that he didn't have when he was a child. Because now, as he said in that same interview, he is continually looking to gain more money. He even verbally said, and again, I encourage you to go watch this interview, he verbally said he couldn't care less on what happens to society. He doesn't have time to think about that. All he has time to think about is making more money. And he was also quoted, and I don't think it was in that interview, but it was somewhere else, that he said, and this is a very important quote, "America is the only thing standing between us and world peace." So that is one reason why he's meddling in all these things. Now, the thing is that I don't think people see it because on such a small scale, but you can imagine how things affect other things. So he funds Hillary to do whatever she wants to do. Hillary gets the paid protesters so that it looks like there's an outcry for things like this. And then that encourages other people with those radical ideas to go forward with their ideas, thinking that, well, other people like it, so I'll like it too. I really think that her and Hillary and I guess Hillary and Obama are working under Soros to change the country into essentially a Nazi communist state. I think that is their ultimate goal, for it to be a strange conglomerate of Nazi communist socialist regime, yet also a Muslim state. That's another clip you're gonna have to watch of Obama where they interviewed him and they're like, can you tell us about your religion? And he's, oh yeah, I'm really good about sticking to my Muslim religion. And hold on, you mean Christian religion, right? And he's like, pauses. Yeah, 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 Christian. I know, the words Christian, Muslim, so similar, very easy to get them mistaken. He clearly said Muslim. Okay, and at some point, I know when he's president, he said that, well, I accept all religions. The point is that the reason why he supports Muslim people so much is because he is part of that. But to get back to this bigger point here, I really think that George Soros is the leader behind all these other social libtards to change the face of America and make them a globalist, elitist country, which is not what we are, of course. And so, with little steps, you'd be surprised how influential just having paid protesters can be. Because, just think about the last 8 years of Obama. Before Obama, we did not have legal gay marriage. We did not have Antifa. We did not have ISIS. We did not even have abortion at the levels that it was. And it was horrible. And then when he became president, we had one of the worst unemployment rates of all time. So you can really see that that's why they were so upset that Hillary didn't become president, because they had Bill as president the way they wanted, and then his vice president ran for president in the next one, but was defeated by George W. Bush. And then, of course, Hillary ran against Obama, and they also lost, but ultimately they got Obama on their side anyway, so it was fine for them. And then the very next step was definitely to get in Hillary, but she once again was defeated, this time by Trump. So, if you really look at it, see the connections to everyone that's in the Clinton Foundation, you start to wonder, is this a whole regime? And I don't know if you've seen the documentary Hillary's America by Dinesh D'Souza, but it's very incredible. It really shows how when we say we're not voting for Hillary, it's not because of our political differences, because we prefer it to Trump. It goes way beyond that. She is essentially defined as a gangster. She's linked to over 143 murders. That's right, murders. And she is a literal, actual criminal. It has almost nothing to do with her political things. In fact, if it were just some Democrat like Bernie Sanders, for example, he does a lot of socialist things I don't agree with, but he doesn't go around killing people if you don't agree with his ideas. I actually think he was cheated out of the Democratic nomination, and I think he actually won, but of course that one was extremely rigged. And that's why I think that Trump actually won even more than what was seen. Because if they could rig the Democratic election so that Bernie would lose, I'm sure they did the same thing for the primary election, and yet he still won. So he must have won by a massive landslide, and we don't even know it. And as it is, I think the only reason that Hillary won the popular vote is the fact that there's 12 million illegal immigrants in California, and so that's a problem as well. And so the thing is that if you look at all these things, they're all connecting. The FBI just recently captured this guy who works for ISIS, and after interrogation, he admitted that ISIS has a plan to infiltrate the country via Mexico. So, think about it. You disguise yourself as an illegal immigrant. You don't even have to disguise yourself as a regular immigrant, because we can let everyone in now these days. So, you just disguise yourself as an illegal alien. You jump on over, and it can be pretty easy because most of the people in ISIS are roughly the same skin color as Mexicans. So, if you can learn the accent, you might be able to pull it off. And like I said, as that captured guy said, ISIS is planning to infiltrate the country through Mexico. So I really think that George Soros has these strings of all these puppets, where he wants Hillary to be president, to let ISIS in and let them take control and completely turn America into a socialist Islamic state and just make it a completely different country. That is why they were so upset when Trump became president, because it changed everything. Who knows how much time it's going to take for them to get back the time that they lost, even if another Democratic president becomes president. They lost so much with Trump becoming president. That's why it's such a great accomplishment that he was able to break through that liberal wall and become president. So the real issue here is that something needs to be done about George Soros. He needs to be seriously evaluated, and we need to find real links to this man. The problem is that no one's going to believe it until they find proof. That is, people that are liberal, which is very ironic considering that they themselves are willing to believe Christine Blasey Ford without a speck of proof, so that's weird. But I really think something needs to be done about George Soros. It's absolutely atrocious, the things that he has done and the way he's already changed America, and we can't let him change America even more. So I think, I don't know who's willing to go take one for the team, but I think someone needs to go to the next protest where there seems to be a lot of people and it's a major event, and pretend to go as a protester. And the moment you run into somebody that's willing to pay you, we need to confront that man and say, where are you getting your connections from? I mean, ultimately we know it's George Soros, but we need to have proof, unfortunately. And so I think, especially if it was a law enforcement officer in disguise, that would be great. Someone needs to go talk to these people and say, where are you paying them? Because, it's bad enough that we have protesters that make it all the way into the Senate floor, but then to know that they're not even there of their own volition, that they are paid, that's unacceptable. It's absolutely just wrong, and the world is getting brainwashed. That's why we have to remember, you have to vote in November, because as bad as you think it is now, if the Democrats can regain the Senate and the House, that's going to be absolutely horrible. So we need to vote to make sure that we keep it the way it is and that we can continue winning and never get tired of winning. So that's extremely important, guys. So remember, tune in every Wednesday for another episode. That's it for Real News Politics for today, and I'll see you next week.
I'm the head of state. You're like a head of cabbage. About to get smacked by my stimulus package. You're a bad man with no chance. You can't even touch me. I got 4 more years. 2 terms. In the White House. Just trust me. I hope you saved your best rhymes for the second half. Because right now, I'm 47% for kicking your